Sex. Does that word alarm you, child? Does it make you uncomfortable, child? Thinking of creatures such as we, living corpses, walking dead, living souls in a corpse-like shell. Well, we are so predicated on it, are we not? We are so obsessed with sex, with passion, with making love. Fucking is the wellspring of Clan Daeva, child. It is, well, our raison d'etre. It is what sets us above our peers among the lords and the shadows. It is what makes us richer than any other clan. My father, my daughter, my brothers and sisters. We all know what it is to still feel alive, to still feel the fire of passion, the passion of the flesh, the body, the soul. One never feels more alive than when one is balls deep in one's prey, penetrating with fang and phallus both. Still, perhaps it would not be remiss of me to start with a history lesson, as I understand that is customary. Of course, our history being as blurred as it is by the fog of ages, I can only go off anecdote. And this is my favourite one. There was a goddess in honor of the kingdom of Uruk. She was not the mortal monarch, she was not the queen, and she was merely an immortal in avatar form, shall we say. And in honor, she was a goddess of love and lust, and while she was not queen, she was counsel and bastion of faith in this kingdom of heaven, hedonists, this empire of lust. Inanna could perform any trick. She would service any man, any woman, any supplicant that came to her. She would be the ultimate submissive and lay down and allow them to do whatever they wished to her. She would be the ultimate dominant and take whatever she wanted from whoever she wanted. She was truly a being of flesh, the pleasures of it. And still she was left wanting. She had been around for generations and she wanted a child. I know what you're thinking, creatures of lust such as we, why would we wish to be burdened by a babe in arms? But Inanna had existed for centuries. She wanted a successor should her immortal coil one day, one night come to an end. I'm not saying Inanna was a vampire, but this is where the story is going. She would take after time man after man after man, marry them, name them Tammuz after some long-lost love in her history, and yet none of them could help her conceive. Then one day a female supplicant arrived. She was not a great beauty. She was perhaps skinny, scrawny. She looked like she'd been beaten several times by a male lover, taken advantage of. She felt her knees before Inanna and performed the tricks of the tongue. She lay prostrate, while Inanna took her pleasures from her. Eventually Inanna commanded this female to rise and said, "Why have you come here?" The female answered, "Because I understand the kingdom of Uruk is in a time of need, and that my skills can offer much." Inanna laughed. "There are many females that come this way. Many look better than you." "What skills of passion do you have?" The female answered, "All of them. I am a first among equals." Inanna said, "Can you fix a sandal in times of war?" The female answered, "Yes." Inanna said, "Can you braid my hair in times of pageantry?" The female answered, "Yes." Inanna said, "Would you lay down and let every citizen in the kingdom of Uruk take you in whatever fashion or way they felt appropriate, or inappropriate as the case may be?" The female answered yes, resolute. Inanna, her curiosity piqued, asked, "Could you bear the child of every man in this kingdom? Could you create a new generation for the kingdom of Uruk?" On this the woman said she would need time, patience, but yes. She became the handmaiden to Inanna, practiced in as many skills as she was, ultimately, and even to this female, for Lilith was her name, well, she decided and it has gone down in legend that the kingdom of Uruk was more hedonistic than any kingdom before, or indeed any since, and Lilith was at the forefront of all of this. Despite the amount of time she spent there, her cycle never matched up to the other females, therefore she was opportune for the breeding process at a slightly different time, and this resulted in her bedding the king of Uruk. Tammuz of the time and Inanna watched, and they were aroused at Lilith's arts. They were sure that this would result in an heir. So aroused was Tammuz that the following night he visited Lilith as well. He laid with her. Laid is too calm a word. He rode her vigorously. And as he pumped the last of his ejaculate into her, Inanna walked upon them, found them, and she picked Lilith up and in a rage cast her against the wall, breaking her neck, breaking her in two, and she ripped free Tammuz's manhood, and then ripped him into gobbets, and she fed Lilith to the 7 owls of the kingdom that screeched with joy to finally have this debauched creature at their talons and beaks. Inanna felt sad years on. She had not only lost her favourite of the Tammuz husbands, she had also lost her favourite companion in Lilith. And perhaps Lilith was pregnant by the king. Perhaps she would have been pregnant by Tammuz. She would never know. She did not exhibit the patience that was asked for her. Inanna went back to the owls and she demanded of them, reconstruct Lilith. They said, we can only bring half of her back. We have devoured the other half. That will be fine, Inanna said. Lilith was brought back a shell, half of what she was, half living, half dead, no longer able to bear a child, and not in the way that Inanna had anticipated. Lilith left the kingdom of Uruk not long after being brought back, ungrateful as she was, creating children of a different sort as she abandoned the city. The kingdom of Uruk fell soon after. Does this mean Lilith was our progenitor? Well, who can say? There are so many that would claim that Longinus was the first ever vampire. There are others, older still, that would claim some other myth. But that is my favourite. Sex was part of our foundation. Sex is our reason. Why? When a Daeva preys upon his chosen quarry, he does not hide in the shadows and pounce like some Nosferatu. He does not command that you bow and take what is coming to you. That is the way of the Ventru. He does not hunt prey like some gangrel. The Daeva make the prey want it, and they make the prey enjoy it. Clan Daeva know all about making the prey want exactly what they're having. While the Ventru will command and the Nosferatu will stalk, as will the Mekhet in their dark arts, the Daeva merely have to stand in a room, and there will be one, at least one, mortal who comes up to you and says, "Can I buy you a drink?" or "Are you getting out of here soon?" or just up front, "Do you fancy a quick fuck?" Now, this doesn't really matter where you are. You could do this in a nightclub, that is a favourite, but it is also lazy. There is no challenge. My favourites are to go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, to go to other such self-help groups. People there are already in a weak and fragile state, and you are helping them by giving them some passion in their life, an addiction far healthier than being attached to the crack pipe. Once I was seeking out one of my fellows among the clan. My daughter, in fact. I went to the community college in which I knew she prayed. I found that she was in an art class. There was a man in the middle of this class, completely nude. It was a nude display, they were painting him. ugly man, short, pot-bellied. He had wood harder and larger than perhaps I'd seen before. My daughter, my child, she was there. She was painting calmly and enjoying it. Her majesty flowing from her pores, making this man focus his wood like a divining rod, pointing her out. And all of the other artists, they were suitably empowered as well, taken in by this majesty. They were painting furiously with more passion, more skill, more grace than they had ever generated before. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine 10, 12, 15 artists born all at that time? Never before, some of them new entrants to this class. They had never before picked up a brush, and yet they were so instilled with the passion of the Daeva that they just picked up the brush and they started painting this man. And yet not one of these paintings was a poor effort. Because through the sex, through the charge that this Daeva issued, through her majesty, she was able to inflame the passions of all those in the room with her. I was so proud of her on that night, I really was. Other Daeva are more lazy. Like I say, you go to a nightclub. You go to a nightclub, you stand in the middle of the floor, or perhaps you play with the decks, or maybe even join a band. You draw the attention to you. Majesty used in such a vulgar way. Sometimes one needs to feed and needs to draw the prey in more overt ways, but still, to channel it, such as my daughter did, that is something that I was feeding once. I was actually playing with someone who was a little hard to get, shall we say. And as part of our roughhousing, I broke one of her ribs. Popped clean out. I heard it snap away from the spine. And still she wanted me. Still she was wet. Still she took me inside her. I have had a similar occasion with male prey as well, I can assure you. Once I was so brutal with him. His arms were broken, practically. Every bone in his arm. I was just clenching him so tight. And yet despite the pain that he must have been feeling, he could not suppress a mighty erection from which I fed. Well, sex maketh the Daeva. Passion is what keeps our prey coming back to us. Where a Mechit has to hunt a new prey every single night because they can't wait to get away from them if they survive the encounter, we have our prey on tap, constantly coming to feed from the rich vein of Clan Daeva. I hear you say, well, you do not feel the urges of sex. All you feel is the urge for vitae, for blood, to drink, to indulge in your Requiem and do nothing more than act as a sly predator, occasionally feeding off animals. I can assure you that you are not among your peers for as long as you are feeding off of animals. A Daeva goes straight for the vein, straight for the most prominent one. Does not waste its time consorting with animals. I can assure you of that, child. Yes, you say you are not interested in fucking your prey. You will be. When you have done it, you will be. I can assure you. It doesn't matter how you do it. You name your fetish. All are accounted for. I can assure you. I have met Daeva that have ran entire bondage clubs with whips and chains, paddles. I have met Daeva that only feed while sodomizing their prey. It is something about inflaming the ardour, is what I was told. Others, they like to, 69, turn the tables on their prey and feed their prey whilst being fed in another fashion. There is so much you can do with the human body, my child. So many ways you can enjoy it. I will repeat to you now that in Clan Daeva, Not only can we move like the wind and strike like a snake, we can also enchant, allure, draw in, and make not just mortals but vampires love us. There is a reason we are the pinnacle of kindred existence. It is because we beat with more than just our heart. It is more than just vitae sluggishly flowing around our veins. It is our lust. It is our great passion of the loins that makes us just that little more alive and powerful, desirable than all others. Now go out. You pick up a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You woo him just as you did when you were mortal, and you will find some things easier than before, maybe some things more difficult. Maybe if it becomes even easier to you, feed that mortal a drop of your blood. Do not cheat yourself too much, though. You are of my bloodline. You have the talent to win your prey over without such overt tricks. Thank you and good night.